So today I'm going to be talking to you about emotion regulation skills, and we've got a few aims for today's session. So first of all, we're going to be thinking about emotions and what are emotions. Further along, we're going to be talking about how emotion regulation develops and what kind of things might get in the way of our emotion regulation skills. And finally, we're going to be thinking about some strategies to try and help your children recognise and regulate their emotions. And really thinking alongside this session about why your child might find it difficult to regulate or manage some of their emotions. And hopefully by the end of the session, you'll have some understanding of who or what might need to change and strategies to start putting into place to see some of those changes happening. So, an important first question, of course, is what are emotions? And these are just some examples of emotions that I'm sure you've all experienced in everyday life. So happy, sad, angry, playful, some of the less common ones like connected or assertive, they're all important for our well-being. So what are emotions for? Well, a really important point to make is that emotions have been around for millions of years, and throughout that time they've been helping animals, including humans, to survive. They ultimately tell us what gives us pleasure and what gives us pain. And a little bit like a GPS or a sat-nav, they tell us where we are, where we need to be, and how to get from point A to point B. And in reality, if we start to ignore our emotions, this is when we might start to feel depressed or anxious, and some mental health conditions might start to arise. So, as human beings, we've really got caught up in this belief that emotions are either good or bad, negative or positive. Of course, some feel more comfortable than others, some feel really uncomfortable, but this is something we've learned as a society rather than a more instinctual reaction. The reality is emotions aren't good or bad. They are all signals that give us really important messages in life. This is a really important starting point for teaching emotional regulation, because all children need to feel that every single one of their emotions is important and valid to therefore help them express them appropriately. Problems often come when children are ashamed of their emotions and they try to keep them down. This can lead to emotional build-up and eventually perhaps tantrums or meltdowns that you might see in your children. So each time your child feels an emotion, always encourage them to ask, what is this feeling telling me right now? What do I need to do with it? So we've got some examples here. The feeling of stress, it tells us that we need to slow down, that we need to put some self-care in place. The feeling of sadness, it tells us that you might need some love, you might need some self-care, you need to look for the joy and gratitude in life. If you're feeling anxious, it might tell you that you need to calm down, you might need some grounding. You need to remind yourself that you are safe and you are capable and you are managing the situation. Some other ones, we've got a picture here of excitement. So what is excitement for? Well, ultimately it gives us energy, it gives us motivation to go and find or do what we need to do. It tells us what's important to us, and it helps us explore and be curious in life. Similarly, anger. We feel angry when we don't get what we need and what we want in that moment. And anger is different from aggression or violence. It gives us the energy to put in place boundaries and tells us what we will and what we won't put up with to keep us protected and safe. So this is a bit of a funny picture of a dog rolling over, but it's an important one. And it says the only time we don't feel is when we are dead. The reality is that we all have emotions all of the time, and it's really important to listen to them. The only time we don't have emotions is when we are dead. If we have desires or goals, like I don't want to feel disappointed, I don't want to feel dead, I don't want to feel sad, then these are really the kind of goals that dead people have. We need to have these goals of having emotions to feel alive and to feel motivated through life.